Oh no, Tim and Kim have only saved $400,000 and they're not going to be able to retire. The software shows it. No, Tim and Kim, you've got to continue to work your crappy old jobs. Do they? Do they? Let's dive into this. It's actually funny how many people get, Josh, your voices are annoying. Dude, I don't get Doing independent creating on YouTube is like the best thing ever because you can be you. It's awesome. And some people, I don't like it. I don't care. All right, so anyway, so here's Tim and Kim's sample. All right, so we're going to go over these guys here. And let's just go through their profile. This is based on a real live client, by the way, who I just not recently spoke to. Recently I spoke to. And I said I'm going to do a video on they're close to the scenario. I'm not going to give names or anything like that, but it's fun. And this is going to be it'll be a good time. All right, so Tim and Kim, they are, obviously that's not their real name. Old Tim is 67. Young Kim is 61, give or take a couple months, if that makes sense. All right. They're both going to live until they're 90, all right, 90 years old, we think. Now, we had talked, when I was talking to them, there was some issue about who would live longer and whatnot, but Kim was like, say, hey, maybe just kick me off at 85. I said, let's just have you live until 90. The longer you live, the longer your money is going to last, which means it's more conservative, or more conservative analysis, not a more optimistic, more pessimistic, if you will. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. All right, so let's go to net worth. It's funny. Well, let's just go into it. They keep $20,000 in an emergency account. All right, they got a house up in New York State. $450,000 is their current value. I think they said 400 or something. Yeah, I think it actually was 400. Now, in New York, they get hammered in property tax, $14,000 in property tax. Let's see, $1,500 in insurance. I think actually property tax was $12,000. I think it's $14,000 all said and done, and $2,000 in annual maintenance. All right, so basically that's their home in New York. They own it outright. They got no debt whatsoever. She drives a 2012 Ford. He drives a 1997 pickup that he's a maintenance junkie, so he's able to fix it. And they're not light cigars with $100 bills. Let's put it that way. All right, so their investments essentially. We're just going to say it's all in Tim's, it's a 401k. It's actually Tim was self-employed for basically his whole career. He's self-employed in a working man's job, all right? And so he, didn't make a huge amount of money, but they got by, that's for sure. Able to squirrel away between Tim and Kim $400,000. Actually, Kim had a little bit of this 400. I think about a third was hers. It frankly won't matter. So we're just going to say it's all in Tim's name just to make it easier on me as I show you the data. And that's pretty much it. No debt. They got a house that's paid for. They got some investments. And by the way, they're wondering should they be conservative because they don't want to get killed in a market crash. Tim or Kim, I can't remember. One of the parents, right before they retired in 2009, the market fell and they lost like $80,000. They don't want that to happen to them. I said, no, I got you. All right, so let's go to income. All right, so Kim gets a small pension. She worked in a crappy old job for a number of years, but not a huge pension, but small, $700-800. We have Tim's actually going to work an extra year, but we're just going to have him kicking off now just to show you the worst case scenario. Kim is already retired. Social Security for old Tim is $2,300 at his full retirement age. Social Security for Kim, I think this is too little, but that's what she said, $1,000 at her full retirement age. I think it's going to be more than that. Either way, if she waits till her FRA, she'll get half of Tim's no matter what. But I don't think it's only $1,000 a month. But anyway, that's what we use for her. That's what she said. Again, we're being very, very cautious in this approach. And their goals, they think they only spend $3,000 a month. That's all inclusive. That literally is all inclusive. And I was actually even less than that. I said, or maybe it was that. I said they think it's even more. That's more than what they'll spend, and that was literally all inclusive. They just don't spend that much. They do have a couple kids and whatnot, but they're pretty frugal, and they've been for their whole life. Says okay, we'll run with it. Actually, pretty interesting. Now, because of the where Kim worked, she won't have health care. I think I'm actually overestimating what her total healthcare costs will be pre-Medicare. In fact, I'm way overestimating what their out-of-pocket will be. Actually, let's dock that down because her company, where she worked, her employer will pay for her supplemental policy, both for both Tim and Kim. So once she hits Medicare, her supplemental policy would be paid for by her previous employer. I can't remember if Part D would be too. Anyway, so I'm overestimating that. But she is on the healthcare plan while she's under the age of 65, even though she's not working. The benefit of working in that crap old job is now she's 60, she quit, she is still on their healthcare, which is pretty cool. I guess that's pretty much it. So yeah, they're not saving anything. Yeah, there we go. So first thing we're going to do, and now normally we talk briefly about estates. They know they got to get their stuff done. So we talk about that. That's we're not going to get that here today. Let's look at tax, see it won't be much. Up here, and that's when the old Tim dies, and that's a widow's tax trap. But just there is no effective worry about income tax whatsoever. And I want to stress something. When I was talking to him, I said, look, one of the strategies would be to live off your 401k. So it's actually a SEP IRA here. But I said, live off it while you're waiting to take Social Security. And it's interesting. So I told him, like, look, if you're spending $3,000 a month, that's roughly $40,000 a year, all inclusive. Live off your IRA, all right, and then and that won't be subject to much in tax. And the reason is because once they're over 65, we'll just say if a standard deduction of $25,000 for simplicity. Tim will get a higher standard deduction. Kim will get a less because she's under 65. But a standard deduction of $25,000. So $40,000 is their income. $40,000 comes off out of their IRAs. AGI is $40,000. Subtract the $25,000 in standard deduction. Their taxable income there is only $15,000. And we're not talking about the pension because the pension is $700-800. But it's the same scenario. If they're only going to take $32,000 from their portfolio and supplement the rest of the pension, it's still $40,000. That's their AGI. But you top line AGI, subtract from the standard deduction, their taxable income is only $13,000, $14,000. That's it. That's well low in the 10% tax bracket. So they're going to pay $1,000 to $1,500 in taxes. It's just not a big deal. And once they take Social Security, it won't be anything, as you can see here. All right, so let's dive into this. So we're going to go to retirement. Oh my goodness, that looks ugly, Josh. No, 2%, they can't retire. No. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, you can see here they only have a 2% probability of success. Their liquid assets would run out right there at 89 for, I think that's at 89 for Tim. So yeah, it would be. So Kim would have no money when Tim dies, no liquid assets. She still has a house. She still has Social Security, but be that as it may. So what we're doing is we're saying, look, we're only giving you, because we have you in the Ginnie Mae, 2.3% on rate of return. That's it. So what if we made our portfolio a little bit more aggressive to preservation with a 20% stocks, 80% bonds? All right, so that's the first thing we're going to do. It's only going to give us 2.8% rate of return. And again, I'm looking at this as a very conservative approach. So the first thing we're going to do is like, look, man, if you had 20/80, let's see what it looks like, jumps. And what you'll see here is going to jump to 14. All right, now we're going to go one up to be a 35, I think 35.65, and it'll jump to, I can hit refresh, it'll jump to right there. Now, there's a couple reasons I want to point this out to you. It jumps to 48. So I think the next one, conservative, I think it's 35.65. Yeah, so that's a 3.8. So the reason we're using this right now is simply because we don't want to get killed in the market crash right around this time when they retire. 1 year out of retirement, a year into retirement, maybe 2 years. After that, we want to get a little bit more aggressive with some stocks, potentially. We'll see. But for right now, we're just going to assume we're keeping this, but we can't assume we're going to keep this forever. So that in the back of your mind, you say, okay, well, for the time being, while we're conservative, this doesn't look good, but obviously we're not going to be that conservative the rest of our life. All right, so that's one way. All right, so another way would simply be, well, if we only spent $2,800 a month instead of $3,000. Now watch this. This is going to change. That extra $200 a month is going to change everything. Look at that, 82%. Crazy. So if we go this back to the current portfolio, it just shows how much expenditures matter, man. This will be what? So if we reduce our spending by only $200 a month, but we increase our portfolio to 35.65. And that changes that. Look at that. That's it. That's it. All right. So let's not do that. Let's say okay, because I'll show you expenditures here in just a second. There's a trick up my sleeve here, which I'm going to share with you. All right. But anyway, either way. So let's go back to the conservative. Where I'm not conservative, where they're currently with all bonds. What if we did some Social Security planning, which is what we talked about? So we're going to go to customize. We're going to have old Tim taking at 70, and we'll have Kim taking at 62 and see how that shakes out. 89, 89%. So just by taking Social Security at 70 and Kim taking at 62, that one move alone changes everything. I mean, literally, it goes from zero, what was it, 2% to 89, just that one thing. What if you had her taking at 66 instead? Her full, well, actually, it was to full retirement age. There we go. All right. Imagine it'll be better. Yeah, 100%. Just that one thing right there. Why? Well, let's look at it because it's easy to figure this out. This portfolio is only giving us 2.3% a year with a 4.6 standard deviation. You know what Social Security doesn't have? It doesn't have a standard deviation in terms of downside. That's all people care about is the downside. So Social Security doesn't have a downside standard deviation. As such, it's less risky from a volatility perspective, which is what this is based on to begin with. This is based on the Monte Carlo. Part two, though, is that she's only getting 2 to 3% depending on how she invests, and Social Security is giving her and him 8% for delaying, plus cost of living adjustments too. So it's in terms of invest versus Social Security, it's a no-brainer. You take your money out of your portfolio to allow Social Security to grow because Social Security is growing essentially at a 3 times clip of what your portfolio is getting with no downside risk at all. None. And on top of that, Social Security is taxed much more favorably. And if we can just go back to taxes, we'll see there's hardly any tax. Look, I mean, again, you have current, let's go to proposed. Look at that. No tax. Why? Because they're spending down their portfolio here. Now, they do have some distributions here, but they're living off Social Security essentially. And if you're living off Social Security, there is no tax. I cannot stress this enough. But that's not, but let's even go all around, just say, so I mean, that's an easy one there. Let's just go back and we'll say, oops, I want to go back to our current strategy. All right, but here's the kicker. All right, so let's go to cash flows. So 2%. So we got them spending expenses, $3,000 a month in expenses, and that's discretionary. But their housing, look at that. Their biggest expense is housing because of property tax. All right, hold on a second. So the wife called. Let's got to answer that. So anyway, so here's housing, by far and away their biggest expense. But the interesting thing is, you know what old Tim and Kim don't like anymore? They don't like the snow in New York. All right, so they're going to move. Interesting, huh? So watch this. We're going to change one thing. We're going to go to family. We're going to have them living in North Carolina for simple. They want to move to the south because they don't like the snow. They're saying they're shoveling the snow today. They don't want to do it anymore. All right, so now we're going to live in North Carolina just for simplicity. It really matters not the state. What really matters is this property tax. And we're going to reduce their property tax to $3,500. We'll say that. Why? Because they're going to sell their house in New York and buy a one-for-one house in North Carolina. Probably actually make some money on the proceeds. So they're probably looking at $250,000, $300,000 home. When all said and done, they're probably net $50,000 to $60,000. We're not even going to say that. We're not even going to say that here. But watch the reduction. Remember how I showed you by reducing their expenses by $200 a month would change everything? Well, we're doing that essentially by reducing their expenses from what we have $14,000 for property, $12,000 property tax to $3,500. That's reducing it by a whole lot more. So what this, I'm telling you, this is the easiest thing you can do. So it's going to go from 2 to let's see what's going to. We got to go here. Yeah, right. So current, everything is the same, man. Everything is the same. Just reducing their property taxes changed everything. It goes to 100% because they're paying less property tax. And that's why you've got to get out of freaking these high property tax states, because that is what, in this case, I don't want to say holding the back. I already showed you some strategies, but I mean, it's just that one thing. Everything else is, I wish I could put property tax here. That's too bad you can't. So watch. Let me do it again. So we're gonna go to profile. We're gonna go to net worth or property. We're gonna put property taxes back to $12,000. All right. And it's just nuts what they pay in property tax up there. We're gonna go to that guy. We're gonna go to retirement. It's gonna be what, 2%? I mean, you see that 2%, right? I mean, then we go over here, you go back, It doesn't matter what state. It just says how much. Right there. And we go to retirement. That one thing alone. It's crazy, man. That's why property tax is so big. Lastly, we just look at taxes again. It doesn't matter. But if you look, taxes are so small. 2%, 4%. Tim dies here. Kim goes to 5. It's just a big fat nothing burger. Big fat nothing burger. And that's by taking, so if they were to take Social Security later, which they should, frankly, and live off their portfolio, well, let's just do that real quick. Let's say I'm taking Social Security later. We're going to have Social Security customized 70 and 62. And we'll just do 70 and 66 just for the giggles here. Let's say I'm taking Social Security later and watch what happens on the tax side. And you can see that jumped right there from 235 to 510. Watch their taxes. Look at that, man. Proposed plan. So 3.2, 4.1 again right there is the tax trap. But there's lots of different. That's just such a big fat nothing burger, man. Wow, that big old helicopter flying overhead. Woo! I think it's a helicopter. Black Hawk down. Proposed plan. Their income is they're living off their portfolio, and then Social Security kicks in right here. And look, they got surplus income for as far as I can see. I hope this helps. You got to get your expenses. It's all about expenses, and property tax is one of them. And if you get that in order, you're probably good to go. All right, love to hear your thoughts. We'll see you